sans dire à tout.
What's going on, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, tonight I am flying solo again, because remember, on this show, it's always Robert's fault. So, yes, Robert had another engagement that. And so I'm here solo, because come hell or high water, I'm going to do this show. So I guess, if you're out there and you have any sort of pity on me, please jump onto that live chat and talk to me. Yeah, so let's get this conversation started. Or I should say, this is more of a soliloquy, since I'm by myself and I will be speaking. Whether or not it's to anybody is to be determined. But okay. What did I do? Okay, so let's start with my weekend. My weekend was pretty packed. Actually, just like last week was pretty packed, because after last week's stream, I went on a fishing trip with my dad and my uncle up a little bit past Santa Barbara at Halama State County Beach. Me and my family, we've been going there for quite a number of years. They have campsites, and it's right next to the beach, so you're always you're waking up and going to sleep to the sound of the ocean, which is always nice. Although this weekend it was kind of rough, because it was pretty windy, actually. I guess you have to reserve the campsite in advance, and we did that, but we didn't take the weather into account that much. And so the week before we were to go, we were checking the weather constantly, and then it turned out it was going to be really windy that week that we were going. And let me tell you, it was really windy. So windy, in fact, it would make our tent shudder, like, really badly. A lot of the times, we had one of those dome tents, and the wind would hit it just right, and the entire, like, the side that the side of the tent that's facing towards the wind, it actually gets like pushed inwards and almost becomes like inverted, and it was pretty crazy. Although at nighttime it wasn't so bad, and I was actually sleeping on the side that received most of the wind, but I don't remember being smacked in the face by the side of the tent while I was sleeping. So, but then again, at nighttime it wasn't so bad. It was only really during the day and towards sunset that it got really crazy. But at nighttime it wasn't too bad. funny enough, the winds died down the last day that we were there, and so and so and so it was just our luck that that we went there, and for 2 days it was really windy, and it was really kind of hard to do anything else, especially cook. Um, it was so windy that it was blowing on the propane burners, and it was just hard to cook anything, especially since we were making a lot of Korean food, which necessitates rice. So we were making rice, but it was taking a little bit longer than usual because the wind was like constantly blowing on the burner, and if anyone's ever tried to cook in a strong wind, it takes damn near forever. So so that was the weekend. Actually, and fishing wasn't too bad. I would say I did catch. I caught 3 perch and 1 scorpion fish, and if those of you who aren't familiar with the scorpion fish, just type it in, and you'll see they're poisonous, and they belong to the same family that lionfish belong to, and so they're poisonous. So they are poisonous and not really good for the eating. But the fishing wasn't as great as past fishing trips, or recent fishing trips that I've had. Especially this place didn't compare to Vandenberg Air Force Base. My cousin, who's in the Air Force, I guess Vandenberg has a campsite for service members, and so what is it? So yeah, they have a campsite on actually the base for service members and former service members to utilize. And so and again, since my cousin's in the Air Force, he took me and like my dad and my uncle, and that place was amazing. The fishing there was amazing, because as soon as you threw in your as soon as you cast your line, you're getting nibbles and you're getting bites. And I don't know if you and I was I took pictures of the catch that we had. It was it was a lot. It was we easily caught between the 4 of us, we easily caught like 30 to 40 fish between the 4 of us. And that was a great haul. And I remember I shared some of the pictures of the catch on like Facebook or Instagram, and people were like, "Oh my God, that's so much fish." I remember some other friends of mine, they were like, "Oh, where's that fishing spot?" And I was like, it's on Vandenberg Air Force Base, and you need a family member. I mean, I don't believe it was just just friends or something. The person who was a service member also had to be family. And so I think that's the only caveat, really, of the use of the Vandenberg camping site. But don't hold me to that. Don't hold me to that. So, I mean, I guess I can't complain because I still caught fish. I still had a good time with my dad and my uncle, and chance to do some male bonding. Although they're not really much drinkers, so we didn't really drink. So, so that was Tuesday through Friday. No, Wednesday through Friday. Wednesday through Friday, because we left on Wednesday. Wednesday really early in the morning, like 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, and then we drove up there and we got there like at about 6, which I thought was really early because we weren't even allowed to check in for the campsite until 3 p.m. And so, but I mean, we spent that time like fishing, so not too terrible. Ooh, excuse me. So yes, that was my Wednesday through Friday, and then Saturday, we celebrated my mom and my sister's birthdays because they're just a few days apart from each other, and so we had a nice family dinner at my mom's favorite restaurant, CPK. Shout out to CPK. Yeah, it's weird because my mom doesn't typically go out to American restaurants. We tend to keep it more Korean or Asian in general. But yeah, the CPK is like her favorite restaurant, and so we went there and went there. I actually tried something new because I never saw this dish on the menu. It was this short rib, braised short rib and mac and cheese, and it sounded really good. And for the most part, it was pretty tasty. But the portion size, I was a little miffed at because they serve it to you in like this really big plate, like kind of bowl plate hybrid, if you know what I'm talking about, like with a really thick rim, and then like a deep kind of middle part, like almost like a bowl, but it was like that's it. But in the pictures, it makes it look like there's like the serving size is a lot more. And so I was a little miffed that CPK just deceived me like that. I think I kind of take for granted a Cheesecake Factory, whose portions are very big. So when you go to Cheesecake Factory, you're gonna get you're basically you're gonna leave with leftovers. Is what I'm trying to say. And so, but otherwise, it was good. It also came with some roasted chilies on the side, and that actually, but they weren't too spicy, so you weren't burning your mouth on this dish. Yeah, usually when I go to CPK, I tend to get, or kind of my default dish there is a tequila chicken fettuccine. I don't know why that's my default, but it is. It's just tasty to me. It's just tasty. And although I do kind of improve it a bit by, I don't know if they still do, but if I think before they used to serve it with a lime, and so, but even if, because I remember last time I ordered it, it didn't come with a lime, I had to ask for one. But anyways, I take that lime, I squeeze it all on top of it, and then I get some Cholula, or I get like the hot sauce, and then I put a few dashes in it, and then I mix it all together, and I think it livens up the tequila chicken fettuccine. So I remember the first time I had it, and this is years ago when I first started going out to places with friends, and I really liked the chicken fettuccine, the tequila chicken fettuccine, and then it just I was like, this is good, but it's still kind of underwhelming, and so I had the bright idea of doing all those things, and for my palate, anyways, it definitely livened it up. Um, yeah, and yeah, and then we after dinner we came back home and we had cake and just some family bonding time. I don't see my sister all that often, even though we don't we still live within the same city. I mean, she lives in Koreatown in LA, and I live up in the valley. But we're both very busy, so finding time to kind of just hang out and stuff is just a little bit harder. Um, what else? Um, yeah, we had a good old time. I don't know why, but me and my sister get together, we just even though she's much older than me, it's funny because she kind of comes down to my level. I mean, we're both adults now, but we still act like stupid kids, and we have stupid fights. And my older sister, or our oldest sister, uh, can attest to that because we have like stupid arguments oh god, what it's so ridiculous that I can't even think of the stupid. It's just really dumb. It's like brother sister stuff. It's like that's not how you pronounce something. This is how you pronounce something, or your butt's encroaching on my side of the couch. Just like move your fat butt over, that kind of stuff. And and yeah, and then constant impressions of of our dad. My dad is, he's a very typical Korean father, and I'm told that I do the best impression of our dad, and so and so I think it's just I think I spent the most time with him, so I picked up on his mannerisms and like his speech pattern, and so I'm able to come up with the best impression of him. You know, like when my dad wants to know if something's wrong, or if everything is okay, he kind of goes, "Hey, you got some problem?" And and yeah, it's just that always gets a laugh. And my dad, because he's an old man, and it's kind of technology is kind of funny. So when I remember I was showing him a picture on my phone, and he took the phone and he kind of he pulls it out away from it, but then he kind of tilts his head and kind of looks down at it, and it's like, so if I could get like I'm like, and he'll get like that little, kind of like squint his eyes a little bit and pucker his mouth, pucker his lips a little, and and then he'll be like, "Oh, what's this?" And yeah, that's my dad. Yeah. they say that what is it? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And I remember, I forget who it was. I was watching a video here on YouTube. Uh, it was somebody, but they're saying how, when you do an impression of somebody, you can't do it. You can't do it if you hate the person. I mean, you can, but then, like, if you love or respect that person, it'll come through in your impression. And I think, again, I'm spacing on who was talking about this, but they were using the Saturday Night Live sketch, or where Alec Baldwin is doing President Trump, and this person, oh God, who was it? Was it Owen Benjamin? No, wait, Steven Crowder. Either one of those two. But they were saying how that they don't really care for Alec Baldwin's impression because it's not that great, or because it's a very that impression of Trump is coming from a very kind of mean place. There's no that there's no respect, there's no love in that in that impression, and so it just kind of falls flat. As opposed to as opposed to back in the day when there would be impressions of Trump, or not Trump, or Clinton, or even I mean he wasn't that popular while in office, but George Bush. When Will Ferrell did an impression of George Bush, there wasn't any like mean-spiritedness about that impression. It was just it was kind of it was just kind of a little poke, and I think even though people didn't necessarily like George Bush, Jr. at the time, he, they respected the office. They respected the office enough to not be mean spirited about their impersonation of George Bush Jr. And so, in that same way, I think that's the place where I do my impression of my father. It's from a place of love. It's a place from respect, um, and it's just funny. It's just funny. Just to be honest with you, it's just funny. Let's see what else. Yeah, so that was my weekend for this for this weekend. I guess one last thing about my weekend um, would be I caught another movie, A Quiet Place. Starring John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, and it was directed by John Krasinski, and it was a really good movie. I will say, I think it was done very well. Uh, I mean, there are a few questions that come up when you watch this movie because it's kind of like it's one of those end of the world deals, but um, yeah, it's an end of the world type of thing where there's these creatures who attack people based on sound, and kind of think on the lines of that movie Tremors, I mean, some of you might be too young to remember, but there was this movie in the early 90s called Tremors. And it was this kind of like, it was almost this B movie, B monster movie about these creatures that lived in the ground, and they sensed vibration. So, if if you're on the ground and you're like kind of stomping around, then the creatures would hone in on you through the vibrations, and that's how they hunted. Kind of think of like that, but mixed with like a little bit. Think of that concept, but like switch out like giant worms under the ground, and replace it with the Cloverfield monster. And so there's these creatures with like really sensitive, like super sensitive hearing, and any sort of noise they home in on their prey, and that's how they attack. Some of the questions that came up to my mind was, it's this end of the world kind of thing, but but then there's still electricity, and and I don't think that the characters would use a noisy generator to produce their electricity. So where's the electricity coming from? Or maybe is it that what's it like? Society hasn't fallen completely, and somehow power generators, power generation plant, facilities are still working or still being maintained. Because the movie opens up. The movie opens up in about 3 months after I guess the initial disaster, and so, but then after the opening scenes and the title card, it jumps to 400 something days later, and I think, what is that? I think that's over, is it like a year and a half, give or take? Hold on. How many years? 400 days. Okay. So yeah, it's like 420 something or other. Jesus. And I don't imagine that. Sorry about that. The typing, when I was typing, I guess I accidentally hit the button. To not make, to shut off the stream. So apologies for that. Goodness. So what was I saying? So I was talking about The Quiet Place, and so yes, okay. So from the beginning, it was like 3 months after the initial attack, and then about a year and year and a quarter since that opening title sequence. And again, the power, yeah, but there's still power somehow, some way. And what is it? And but again, if they're using generators, those things are loud as heck, and the monsters would have killed them a long time ago, or or the world isn't as decimated as we are led to believe, and there's some people who are still maintaining the power facilities, but that's kind of a stretch. I mean, honestly, that's kind of a stretch. But anyways, let me get I keep getting hung up on this one film part. But I think overall it was a really good movie. I think John Krasinski did an excellent job, both in performance and direction, because there was good kind of suspenseful like terror is hard to come by, and I think he did it well. I mean, yes, there were a lot of there were jump scares, and but I think they were used very effectively. If anything, they were used very effectively, and it was interesting. It was very interesting, this type of movie, because there were um, some very there was a lot of interesting messages, maybe not intentionally, but there was definitely a very pro-family there was a definitely pro-family message. There was a you know, kind of nuclear family, father, mother, kids, and the father was definitely the provider, protector, and the mother was more the nurturer. Um, um, but it was, but again, if whether they realize it or not, those are the messages that were in it. Um, especially now with this, with a certain mentality, within our culture that that kind of poo-poos, having a family, or at least having one early. Um, and I think, yeah, I mean, they did inhabit more traditional gender roles, which I'm sure people on the very far left will have a problem with, and I'm sure there'll be articles and reviews uh, pointing out pointing that out. Um, uh, but again, this is yeah. I mean, I think I could let go of all of those. As much as the questions that I had, like kind of like poking holes in the story. I think I still like this movie. I still would recommend it to anybody uh, who asked me. And yeah, it was amazing what they were able to do, because it was a very small production, very small cast. It was just John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, and then their children. I mean, there's I mean, there is an old man that appears, well, this is very briefly. So it's amazing how much of my attention was on this movie, even though it was really only just you know them four you know on the screen the whole time. And I don't want to spoil it, but there's one powerful moment, and it's designed to tug at your heartstrings. Well, there are a few instances in this movie, where they tug on your heartstrings a bit. But there was one that really pulled on mine, and it was powerful. I'll just leave it at that. Um, so yes, I would recommend A Quiet Place. Yeah, you should go and watch it. I think I haven't. I heard about this, but it's not confirmed. But the actress that plays the daughter, I think, is deaf, and her deafness does play into the plot of the story. But I thought it was really interesting. I found her performance very compelling. Being deaf and everything, but still being you know despite disability or deficiency, she was still able to put out a stellar performance. And you know, I hope that she does. She is able to have a career after this. And not just as a bit part or bit character. So I think the only other deaf person or deaf actress is Marley Matlin. I forget. It's an actress. She has alliteration for her name. Like it's a MM. But yeah, she was deaf, and her career was she's making a few guest spots here and there throughout like late '90s, early 2000s, and she was also in I don't know those are if you guys remember or not, but she was in that kind of documentary-ish sort of movie. What the bleep do we know? It was narrated. It was like one. It was like what? It was when people found like the magic within Morgan Freeman's voice, and I think he was a producer too uh, on it. But it was like talking about the mind and how the mind works and how we perceive things and all that sort of thing. And but she's in that too. Not the girl from A Quiet Place, but Marley. Okay. Someone put it in the comments for me. Deaf actress. Uh, you know, I think peak career was late '90s, early 2000s. Um, yeah. Um, what else? What else do I have? Yeah, see, this is how unprepared I am for these things. I mean, for these streams. Uh, Yeah, I mean, usually, when I'm here with Rob, when we do these, when we do this, me and Robert, we, get on Skype just before we start, uh, the show, and I ask him, hey, is there anything specific you want to talk about? And so, if he does, then he'll, say like, oh, I want to talk about this. And it's like, oh, cool. And then I'll talk about this because, and that's basically our prep for this show is just, a few minutes before the show, we talk about, oh, what do you want to talk about? Oh, we'll talk about this, and I'll talk about that, and then we'll have a show, and then we'll just go off, and we'll just weave and we'll just have a conversation. But since it's just me tonight, I have to find interesting topics and discuss them. And again, it's more of a soliloquy because I'm the only one here. And so, if you want to, again, if you want, if you, want to help me out and, throw me a topic, just get in that live chat. But if you just want to see me squirm for however long I feel like doing this, or until my voice gives out, because I don't know, I'm starting to feel, since I am doing a lot, since I'm the only one talking, I do kind of feel it in my throat, and it's getting a little hoarse. But I'll try to power through. Yeah, not a lot of things going on in the news. Although I was surprised because, I don't know if you guys follow, but there was like that kerfuffle about Starbucks and in Philadelphia, and how those two black men were arrested supposedly for just sitting there. But but I mean, I've been hearing about it here and there, and information's been coming in sporadically. There's they contended that they're just minding their own business, and all they asked to do was use the restroom, but they were informed that the restroom was used, reserved for paying customers, and they're like still waiting on a third party to come before they ordered or whatever, and I was surprised that because my dad was commenting on it, and my dad isn't political, or at least I've never heard him like discuss or not political, but like the like current events guy, and so him because like he had brought it up. I don't know how it came up. But he's like, "Oh, we're not going to drink at Starbucks anymore." It's like because they're such assholes and racists or whatever. And I was just like, "Excuse me," and I was like surprised because my dad, again, is not the current events type. He's not someone who necessarily picks up causes very easily, and so I was a little taken aback by what he said. But I'm in the camp of I need more information, because yes, there's this video of these men being arrested, but what happened 10 minutes before this this bystander started recording. When the cops came and they slapped the cuffs on them and were walking them out. What was the exchange 10 minutes before? I need more information. But I mean, if that is all the information, and that's exactly what happened. Just exactly as this person's video supposes. Then okay, then that manager messed up. He should be removed, and Starbucks should or Starbucks ought to apologize. But if 10 minutes before that, what happened? If there is 10 minutes before, if there's more information, if there's 10 minutes more information that was not known or recorded, then I would like to wait and find out what that information is, because just from what I was hearing, is they were I mean, just just that they were sitting in there and supposedly they're waiting, but for this third person, and I think I mean, I've been to other establishments where they make you buy something before they allow you to use your bathroom, and I think that's that business's prerogative, and so I think to to demand access to a private business's facilities is that's a bit much, because because Starbucks is a private company. It's not a public area. It's not run. Starbucks is not run by the city. The restaurant's not, or the sitting area is not run by the city. It's run by Starbucks. It's a private corporation, and if they maybe it's not even Starbucks's position, but let's say it's the manager's position, or it's that if that franchise. I don't know if do they do does Starbucks, do they sell franchises? I'm not exactly sure. But if it is if they do, if Starbucks model is that of every other franchise where they sell franchises to individuals, then whoever owns that specific franchise, it's their it's their business, so they can implement whatever policy that they wish. And so yeah, I'm just I'll look into I'm gonna look into this, and I'm gonna get a little bit more information before formulating any sort of opinion on the matter. Although I did see that today, during the day, they I guess there was another incident or some such here in LA, or I think it was in Inglewood, Hawthorne area, where a guy, I guess, he heard what had happened, and I don't know. To me, I saw the footage, and to me, it looked like he was just trying to start up something. I mean, I don't know the intent, but just the way that the antagonistic nature of the guy in the video makes me believe that he was there to make a statement or something like that, because he was saying like, oh, they're not letting a black man use the bathroom, and it's kind of ridiculous because for those of you unaware, Hawthorne is is a city in LA that does have a large African American community population, and yes, I think, and like the store manager in the video, she was like this little Asian woman, and the idea that she managing this Starbucks in a predominantly black neighborhood would be be discriminatory or at the extreme racist towards black people, or like specifically to this black person, is kind of ridiculous because her customer base would be predominantly black, and so it doesn't make sense for her to be discriminatory in that to a predominant group where your business resides, and the guy making the video kind of like causing kind of stirring things up. He was like saying, oh, why are you gonna why are you trying to kick me out? Why are you trying to? And then the man, the woman, she was gonna explain, but he cuts her off, and we don't know why she was gonna ask him to leave. Maybe because he was kind of being a jerk. Maybe, I don't know. Or but again, like this is my first impression. My first impression watching the video was just like, this guy sounds like he's just trying to start something, because he's using this thing that happened in across the country, on the other side of the country, and and the the Starbucks in Philadelphia, I'm sure they have a pretty large black population there too. So it wouldn't and it wouldn't make sense for them business wise to be discriminatory in that fashion. And so this guy this guy here in LA seemed like he was just trying to stir things up for the sake of stirring things up. Again, that's just my first impression. Yeah, you think otherwise? If you think otherwise, just leave in the leave in the comments, and I'll reply back. And so yeah, I did. Sometimes I just don't. I'm not hopeful for the future. When I see things like this, it's just kind of hard to be hopeful for the future. And I'm trying to put but I think overall I am hopeful. It's just some days are harder than others. Let's just put it that way. I constantly I think it's natural and it's good to hope. To hope to hope that tomorrow might be just a little bit brighter. Uh, I think it's a good and healthy thing, because if you're constantly living in darkness, um, then even when times are good, you just have that shroud of darkness around you, and all you'll see is darkness. So so don't be afraid to hope. Don't be afraid to be optimistic about the future. Don't be afraid to make plans for the future, because if I didn't, if I was the type of person that only saw the bad, that only allowed present circumstances to define them, then I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't go outside of my house. Um, I just son of a. I would just only be in my room. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Yeah, I'd only be in my room. I wouldn't have friends. I wouldn't have a job, a career, what have you. My I wouldn't be the man. I wouldn't be the man that I am today, because I'd be just totally different. And and how the heck does it get darker? Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to leave on a good note, but this darn thing. All right, that's better. Um, yeah, don't let current circumstances become your future. Don't let the present determine your future. Um, um, if anything, I'd like to leave you with this little anecdote about myself, and that is when I was young, when I was old enough to start going to school. Uh, they put me in a very they started me off in a very restricted and specialized school. You know, uh, kids with the most extreme disabilities, and I think I was there for a year, or I don't remember. It felt like a year, but I was such a young kid. I don't even remember. Uh, but they had determined that my physical limitations weren't so bad or they weren't as much of a hindrance to me. And so they bumped me up to a less restrictive school. It was a I think it was a regular. It was a I say regular, but it was a ordinary school that had a special needs class, and again then there, uh, I gained a little bit more confidence, and I was able to uh, make friends, and I was able to just blossom a little bit more. And from there, I progressed so well that they had determined that I could be placed in, again, normal school, and I was. I think, yeah, I was placed in a normal kindergarten and in a normal elementary school, and at first, it was hard to make friends because I was starting out at a new school, and these were new kids, and they were meeting me for the first time, and it was hard. It was hard, but I, I, as the year went on, I slowly started to show who I was. I started to uh, prove myself. I started to prove myself, and slowly, you know, I started to make friends, and it just kept, and then it kept going on, and on and on and on through elementary school, and yeah, every year felt like I was starting from zero, even though I really wasn't, because the next class that I went to had kids from, you know, classes that I used to be, had some kids from classes I used to be in, and then I'd make new friends, and slowly and surely, people start, kids started to see me, and they saw the type of person I was. That I was fun, I was funny, that uh, I was someone that they could, that I was just like them. I looked a little different, you know, but I was just like them. I liked comic books. I liked hot dogs. I liked the gummy bears. I loved ice. I loved ice cream, just like them. And eventually, they didn't even see my hands anymore. And they saw me as a person. And I think we should uh, all strive, to hope that one day things will get better. And in that same way as, growing up, being mocked, being teased, I didn't necessarily think that things could get better, but, to my surprise, they did. So I say to you, do not be afraid to hope. Do not be afraid to envision a good future for yourself. And I hope that you would hope, and I hope that you hope for a good future. Kind of got serious there, right at the end. But yes, you've come to an hour, and my voice is pretty tired now, so I think I'm gonna end it here. I just want to thank you for joining me. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday night for Nocturnal transmissions at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Don't forget to follow us on our social media accounts, Twitter at PodcastCOJ and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. We actually are having an episode of the main podcast drop tomorrow. So if you're not already subscribed, don't forget to hit that little bell notification so you can get all the notifications of when we upload our videos. And don't forget, it's with and tomorrow's episode is with a friend of Robert's, and a friend of the podcast, musician Lane's Lair. So again, hit that bell icon for notifications so you know when we drop episodes. Oh god! All right, home stretch. And also, don't forget this Thursday, Robert's show, Up by Up Down. New episode will be dropping, so don't forget to check that out. All right, jerk faces. With that, thank you for joining me. Thank you for writing this out with me. I hope that you hope, and I hope that you hope for a good future. Good night.